I don't know why, but this film snuck up on me. I was like, oh yeah, there's a new Hunger Games coming out. I guess I'll check it out. I really didn't like the conclusion of the last films, but I'll give it a chance. And here we are. My name is Brandon Keith Avery, and this is just my opinion. Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Just My Opinion for my The Hunger Games, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes movie review. And if this is your first time finding me and you happen to like this video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing. This film is titled The Hunger Games, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, but for some reason I just want to say The Hunger Games, the Ballad of Ricky Bobby. I know that may not be funny to you, but it's funny to me, and I wanted to share it with you. But I was really not looking forward to this one. I can't say that I was just disgusted by the trailers or anything, but when it was first announced, I was like, oh yeah, there's more Hunger Games story. I guess I'll check one out. And I really didn't have any excitement until the day that I was going to check out this film. Now, this is being directed by Mr. Francis Lawrence. This is what the gentleman looks like right here. And if you don't know him, he did direct all of the previous Hunger Games films except for the first one. The first one that came out in 2012 was directed by Gary Ross, and then Mr. Francis Lawrence came in and directed the rest. So now we have the Hunger Games, Catching Fire, which was part 2, Mockingjay Part 1, and Mockingjay Part 2. I really did not enjoy Mockingjay Part 1 and 2. Those were really, really disappointing to me. Now, the first Hunger Games, I remember who went with me the first time I saw it, and I enjoyed the film, and I really did enjoy Catching Fire Part 2. I think that's the best out of all of them, even after, well, I'll save that for later on. But Mockingjay Part 1 and Part 2 just really, really didn't do it for me. But my expectations, like I said, were extremely low. I didn't care about this movie, but when it came the day of, I was like, okay, the trailers do look good. I'm in the mood. I'm in the spirit. Let's go check this thing out and see what it's all about. But before I get into all the nitty gritty, before I talk about all my likes and dislikes, let me tell you exactly what this film is all about. The story of Coriolanus Snow, years before he will become the tyrannical president of Panem. He is handsome and charming, and though the Snow family has fallen on hard times, Coriolanus sees a chance for a change in his fortunes when he is chosen to become a mentor for the 10th Hunger Games, only to have his elation dash when he is assigned to mentor a girl tribute named Lucy Gray Baird from the impoverished District 12. Now, I am sorry if I am butchering the name Coriolanus or Coriolanus. It's just really hard for me to pronounce, but that is who this film is about. He is the main character, and this is a prequel. I believe the previous Hunger Games films were the games of around 60 or 70. This is the 10th Hunger Games, and we're focusing on Mr. Snow, President Snow, who in the earlier films was being played by Donald Sutherland, this man right here, who was a very evil, disgusting, despicable person, just bottom of the barrel, scumbag, in my opinion, just an evil, 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 evil man. And that's what this prequel is focusing on. But like the synopsis said, this man is charming, this man is handsome, and he has a lot up his sleeve. And that's one of the things that I really did like about this movie is you're seeing his origin story. You're seeing the events that took place that led him to become the man that we know from the earlier films that started out in 2012. And that was very, very intriguing to me and got me pulled into this whole narrative because I liked the guy. I was rooting for him. I was saying to myself, man, how can you be such a great character now, but turn into such a despicable person later on? Were we being tricked in the earlier Hunger Games films with somebody taking over your mind? Were you on some type of control because they had your family locked up underground in some dungeon? That has to be the case because there is no way that you can go from a nice, charming person that I'm rooting for into this despicable person. And I thought this film did a pretty decent job of showing that journey to us. Now, the performances in this film were pretty decent as well. The main character's real name is Mr. Tom Blythe. I'm not too familiar with him, but he is playing the younger version of President Snow, the main character, like I said. He is charming. He is nice to look at. I can understand why people would be fascinated with him, why he has some type of influence on others. I mean, it is all over his character, and I thought he did a great job. I'm not familiar with this guy in other pieces of entertainment, whether that's films or television, but he is on my radar, and after walking out of this movie, I'm saying to myself, hey, if he pops up into some other type of film or television show, depending on what it is, I may give it a chance. It does pique my interest just a bit. But someone that was even better than Mr. Tom Blythe here, Mr. President Snow, was Viola Davis. She's fantastic in everything that she does. In this role, she's playing Dr. Volumnia Gall. I loved her performance. I love everything that Viola Davis does. It kind of reminded me of her role in the DC universe as Amanda Waller, but I think I like this character a bit more, and that may be because of the makeup department. The sets, the costumes, and all that, the wardrobe was phenomenal. Even her makeup with her wigs, you can really tell when she was disgusted by something and felt defeated by her performance, and she has a lot of pride. She does not like to lose at all. And we'll get to the bottom of the situation if she feels like she's being taken advantage of. She was the perfect villain in this film. And what I really do love is the relationship that she had with Coriolanus, how she was somewhat of a mentor to him and wanted to keep the reign of supremacy ongoing, even though she's not going to be alive forever. She says that in the film, I'm not going to be here forever, and I need someone to take my place that's ruling over all the people, ruling over all the districts. So she was a phenomenal character, phenomenal villain. And again, I love the relationship that she had with the young President Snow. Another thing I really did enjoy about this movie is it does not take a long time for things to get going and get good. You're introduced to the characters early on. You're introduced to the 10th Hunger Games early on, and they get to the killing without you having to wait that long. So that's also a great thing. And before that, we even get how things popped off in Panem, the Great War, how all of the districts rose up and tried to fight back against the capital. I want a film that's focused all on that, and we did get brief glimpses of it early on, but you see what people are willing to go through to survive when they're desperate and have nowhere to run. And that is one of the main theme lines of this film, and also another great reflection on society. And since this is only the 10th Hunger Games, everything is condensed down so it's able to focus on things a lot more. And what I mean by that is, in the earlier Hunger Games films, when they're in the games, it's like a whole forest. It's like a whole island. In this, it's just a small coliseum. And everybody has not learned their lesson that is part of the districts. They're still fighting back, trying to kick in the door and just blow up everything that the hierarchies have going on to control them. I like that a lot. There's a lot of rebellion, there's a lot of revolts, and everyone has not been checked. Everyone is like, you know, this is BS. I want to fight back. I don't want to be ruled under this corrupt government. That's not really the case, in my opinion, in the later Hunger Games or the earlier Hunger Games films, but that is very apparent now. And I just like that fighting spirit from all the districts. Whether it's on screen or not, you can feel that presence while you're watching this movie. And another thing I just love about this film is it just goes to show how some people are born into privilege and they just have no idea what life is like for people that grow up in a struggle. The film is also very humorous, and that's interesting because a lot of the characters in this film are monsters, but at the same time, they're able to write in certain jokes to just make you smile, to make you laugh while you're watching this. While people are getting murdered, there's also jokes being thrown out there every once in a while from the commentator. And I thought that was a very, very nice blend, a very, very nice mix, so that this film just doesn't seem completely dark. There are a lot of light moments, so it has a great balance there as well. And the action is pretty good. I really did enjoy it. I do have a few nitpicks where I will talk about in a second, but for the most part, I thought everyone had clever ideas for trying to come out on top, to seize the day and win. And also, this is different. The tributes are not necessarily trying to survive. They're just trying to get a good name for themselves. And that's like another through line in the plot that I like. That's quite different from the other Hunger Games films. And so this is really not a repeat of what we got before. It is, in a way, something fresh and new while still being familiar with the movies that came out in the past. But guys, those are the things that I really did enjoy about the film. Now let me just transition to some things that really did not work for me. This film is told in 3 parts. I really don't like when there's a big black screen that comes up and there's a caption, part 1, part 2, part 3 with some type of subtitle. That's very jarring to me and really not a smooth transition. So that put a bad taste in my mouth. However, the first 2 parts, or the first 2/3, first 2 acts of this film were phenomenal and they flowed smoothly. Part 3 was a step down for me. I want to say it wasn't just because of the lack of action, but it turned into more of a love story and the transition from President Snow of being somebody that we liked opposed to somebody that we don't like that we saw in the previous Hunger Games films. They could have fleshed that out a little bit more. And that's crazy for me to say because I think that this was the longest part, but just the execution just wasn't there. I was still fascinated by his journey because, again, you really did like him, President Snow Cornelius, as a villain or turning into a villain. When you're rooting for him, you think that he's a good person. But again, when the 3rd act comes, you realize he's not a good person because, like I said in the synopsis earlier when I read it, that his family has fallen on hard times. And so it's kind of like the rug being pulled out from under you. Like, I thought you was a good guy, but you're just selfish as hell. And you betray people that you're supposed to be friends with. This is disgusting. You are a monster. And I don't like you anymore. I liked you at the very beginning of this movie, but I don't like you now because you're not loyal, you're secretive, you're manipulative, and that's just not good. But still an interesting character, his arc, his journey in this film. And at the very least, I was entertained. And also something else I really didn't care for is during some of the action scenes when they're swinging, some of the attacks were a bit telegraphed. And I was saying to myself, okay, if you really wanted to kill this person or stab them, you could have. But when you have your knife in front of you and you cock it all the way back, I'm gonna attack you now. It's like, come on, like, even if you're not a trained strategist fighter, you have more common sense and physical will than you're displaying on the screen right now. But those are just a few brief moments, not anything to ruin the whole movie for you. But guys, that's pretty much it. I enjoyed it for the most part. This is not the best Hunger Games films. I think that's still part 2 with Catching Fire and then the original Hunger Games. And then this one right here is coming in 3rd place. And then Mockingjay Part 1 and 2 is dead last. I was really disappointed with those. And so out of 5 Hunger Game films, 3 are good to me, 2 are bad. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comment section below. I will go ahead and give my rating for this at the very end. But for now, guys, that is just my opinion. And I want to thank you so much for tuning in. If you did enjoy this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment what you thought about the movie, and also my review, and help me reach that next milestone of 50,000 subscribers. If I had to go ahead and rate The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I would give this film, do I want to give it an 8 out of 10? I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10, a 7.5 out of 10. I'm thinking about an 8, but no, I think I'm going to stick at a 7.5 out of 10. But guys, again, I just want to thank you so much for tuning in. And before you go, don't forget that my name is Brandon Keith Avery, and that's just my opinion. Peace.